price of Romex has recently increased due to several contributing factors. Firstly, increased raw material costs, copper specifically, as it is the primary raw material used in Romex. Copper has been experiencing a significant price increase due to global supply and demand dynamics. Secondly, supply chain disruptions. The COVID-19 pandemic and ongoing geopolitical tensions have disrupted global supply chains, leading to delays and shortages. Thirdly, high demand. The ongoing construction boom and increased interest in home renovations have led to a surge in demand for Romex and other electrical materials. Fourthly, inflation. The general rise in inflation across the economy has also contributed to the increased cost of Romex. The impacts of this price increase are multifold. Firstly, increased project costs. The rising cost of Romex can add to the overall expense of electrical projects, making them more expensive. Secondly, delayed projects. Supply chain issues and limited availability can lead to project delays, causing inconvenience and financial losses. Thirdly, shifting of costs. Contractors may pass on the increased costs to customers through higher labor rates or material markups. There are possible mitigation strategies that can be considered. Firstly, explore alternative materials. Consider using aluminum Romex or other types of electrical wire that may be more affordable. Secondly, negotiate with suppliers. Reach out to multiple suppliers to compare prices and negotiate potential discounts. Thirdly, bulk purchasing. If possible, purchase larger quantities of Romex to take advantage of bulk pricing. Fourthly, delay projects. If possible, postpone non-essential electrical projects until the price of Romex stabilizes. For further information, you can read articles such as Why the Price of Wire and Cable is Rising from ecweb.com. Electricians explain why the price of electrical wire is so high right now from Family Hinderman.com, and inflation and wire and cable prices what we know from Wireable.com. These articles provide additional context and analysis of the factors driving the rising cost of Romex and other electrical materials. Understanding these factors can help you make informed decisions about your electrical projects and find ways to mitigate the impact of price increases. Remember to always consult with a qualified electrician for any electrical work to ensure safety and compliance with local codes. The increasing cost of Romex is a complex issue with multiple contributing factors. By understanding these factors and exploring potential mitigation strategies, you can navigate the challenges and minimize the impact on your electrical projects. Always prioritize safety and consult with qualified professionals for any electrical work. These articles delve deeper into the specifics of why wire and cable prices are rising, providing insights from industry experts and economists. They examine the interplay of supply and demand, the impact of government policies, and the role of speculation in the commodities market. Understanding these factors can help you make more informed decisions about your electrical projects and potentially find ways to save money. For example, some articles suggest that buying wire and cable in bulk can help you get a better price, while others recommend exploring alternative materials that may be less expensive. In addition to the factors mentioned earlier, it's also worth considering the impact of tariffs and trade disputes on the price of Romex. Tariffs on imported copper and other raw materials can increase the cost of manufacturing Romex, which is then passed on to consumers. Trade disputes can also disrupt supply chains, leading to shortages and price increases. Another factor to consider is the increasing demand for electricity. As the world becomes more reliant on technology, the demand for electricity is growing rapidly. This increased demand puts pressure on the electrical grid and requires significant investments in new infrastructure. These investments, in turn, can drive up the cost of electrical materials like Romex. In summary, the rising price of Romex is a complex issue with a variety of contributing factors. These factors include increased raw material costs, supply chain disruptions, high demand, inflation, tariffs, and the increasing demand for electricity. By understanding these factors, you can make more informed decisions about your electrical projects and potentially find ways to save money. Always consult with a qualified electrician for any electrical work to ensure safety and compliance with local codes. In addition to the strategies mentioned earlier, it's also worth considering the timing of your electrical projects. If possible, try to schedule your projects during periods of lower demand, such as the off-season. This can help you avoid paying peak prices for Romex and other electrical materials. Another strategy is to be flexible with your project design. If possible, consider using alternative materials or designs that can reduce the amount of Romex required. For example, you might be able to use a different type of wiring for certain applications or consolidate circuits to reduce the overall amount of wire needed. When negotiating with suppliers, be sure to ask about any potential discounts or rebates that may be available. Many suppliers offer discounts for bulk purchases, early payments, or long-term contracts. It's also worth checking with your local utility company to see if they offer any rebates for energy-efficient electrical upgrades. These rebates can help offset the cost of Romex and other electrical materials. Finally, remember to factor in the cost of labor when estimating the overall cost of your electrical projects. Labor costs can vary significantly depending on the electrician's experience, location, and the complexity of the project. Be sure to get multiple quotes from different electricians before making a decision. In addition to the articles mentioned earlier, there are also a number of online resources that can provide information about the price of Romex and other electrical materials. These resources include websites that track commodity prices, online forums where electricians discuss pricing trends, and online retailers that sell Romex and other electrical supplies. By monitoring these resources, you can get a better sense of the current market conditions and make more informed purchasing decisions. It's also worth noting that the price of Romex can vary depending on the gauge of the wire. Generally speaking, thicker wires' lower gauge numbers are more expensive than thinner wires' higher gauge numbers. This is because thicker wires require more copper to manufacture and can carry more current. When choosing the right gauge of Romex for your project, be sure to consult with a qualified electrician to ensure that you are using the correct size wire for the intended application. Using the wrong gauge of wire can be dangerous and can lead to electrical fires. The National Electrical Code, or NEC, specifies the minimum wire size for various applications based on the amperage of the circuit and the length of the wire run. For example, for a 20 amp circuit with a wire run of less than 100 feet, the NEC typically requires the use of 12 gauge wire. However, for a longer wire run, a thicker wire may be required to prevent voltage drop. Voltage drop occurs when the voltage at the end of a wire run is significantly lower than the voltage at the source. This can cause appliances to malfunction and can also lead to overheating of the wires. To calculate voltage drop, you can use online voltage drop calculators or consult with a qualified electrician. When running Romex through walls and ceilings, be sure to follow all applicable building codes and safety regulations. Romex should be properly supported and protected from damage. It should also be kept away from heat sources and other potential hazards. In some cases, it may be necessary to run Romex in conduit to provide additional protection. Conduit is a type of tubing that is used to enclose and protect electrical wiring. There are various types of conduit available, including metal conduit, PVC conduit, and flexible conduit. The type of conduit that is required will depend on the specific application and the local building codes. When working with Romex, it's important to use the proper tools and techniques. Always use insulated tools to avoid electric shock. When stripping the insulation from Romex, be careful not to nick the wires. Nicks in the wires can weaken them and can lead to electrical failures. When making connections, be sure to use the proper wire connectors. Wire connectors are used to join two or more wires together. There are various types of wire connectors available, including wire nuts, crimp connectors, and push-in connectors. The type of wire connector that is required will depend on the type of wire being used and the application. When working with electricity, always take precautions to protect yourself from electric shock. Wear rubber gloves and safety glasses. Work in a well-lit area. Avoid working in wet or damp conditions. If you are not comfortable working with electricity, hire a qualified electrician. In addition to the factors mentioned earlier, it's also worth considering the impact of government regulations on the price of Romex. Government regulations related to environmental protection, worker safety, and product safety can increase the cost of manufacturing Romex. For example, regulations that require manufacturers to use environmentally friendly materials or to implement stricter safety standards can increase production costs. These increased costs are then passed on to consumers in the form of higher prices. Another factor to consider is the impact of technological advancements on the price of Romex. Technological advancements in manufacturing processes can help to reduce production costs. For example, new technologies that allow manufacturers to produce Romex more efficiently or to use less copper can help to lower prices. However, the adoption of new technologies can also require significant investments which can offset the cost savings. In addition to the online resources mentioned earlier, there are also a number of trade associations that can provide information about the price of Romex and other electrical materials. These trade associations represent manufacturers, distributors, and contractors in the electrical industry. They often publish market reports and other information that can be helpful for understanding pricing trends. It's also worth checking with your local building department to see if they have any information about the price of Romex. Some building departments track the prices of building materials to help contractors estimate project costs. They may also have information about local suppliers and distributors. When purchasing Romex, be sure to compare prices from different suppliers and distributors. Prices can vary significantly depending on the supplier, the quantity being purchased, and the payment terms. It's also worth checking for any promotions or discounts that may be available. Some suppliers offer discounts for new customers, bulk purchases, or early payments. When comparing prices, be sure to factor in the cost of shipping and handling. Shipping costs can add significantly to the overall cost of Romex, especially if you are purchasing from an online supplier. It's also important to check the supplier's return policy before making a purchase. Make sure that you can return the Romex if it is not the correct size or if it is damaged. When receiving your order of Romex, be sure to inspect it carefully for any damage. If you notice any damage, contact the supplier immediately to file a claim. Do not use damaged Romex as it can be dangerous. In addition to the factors mentioned earlier, it's also worth considering the impact of seasonal demand and the price of Romex. Demand for Romex tends to be higher during the spring and summer months when construction activity is at its peak. This increased demand can lead to higher prices. During the fall and winter months, demand for Romex tends to be lower, which can lead to lower prices. If possible, try to purchase Romex during the off-season to save money. Another factor to consider is the impact of natural disasters on the price of Romex. Natural disasters, such as hurricanes, floods, and earthquakes, can disrupt supply chains and lead to shortages of Romex. These shortages can cause prices to spike. If you live in an area that is prone to natural disasters, it's a good idea to keep a supply of Romex on hand in case of an emergency. In addition to the strategies mentioned earlier, it's also worth considering the use of alternative wiring methods such as armored cable or metal-clad cable. Armored cable and metal-clad cable are more expensive than Romex, but they offer greater protection against physical damage. They may be required in certain applications, such as in commercial buildings or in areas where there is a risk of rodent damage. When choosing between Romex and other wiring methods, be sure to consult with a qualified electrician to determine the best option for your project. The electrician can assess the specific requirements of your project and recommend the wiring method that will provide the best combination of safety, performance, and cost. In addition to the articles and resources mentioned earlier, there are also a number of books that can provide information about electrical wiring and the price of Romex. These books can be found at your local library or bookstore. They can provide detailed information about electrical codes, wiring techniques, and the factors that affect the price of electrical materials. When reading about electrical wiring, be sure to pay attention to the publication date. Electrical codes and wiring practices are constantly evolving, so it's important to make sure that the information you are reading is up to date. In addition to reading books and articles, it's also a good idea to take a class on electrical wiring. Many community colleges and vocational schools offer courses on electrical wiring. These courses can provide hands-on training in electrical wiring techniques and can help you to understand the electrical code. Taking a class on electrical wiring can be a great way to improve your skills and knowledge, and it can also help you to save money on your electrical projects. However, it's important to remember that electrical work can be dangerous, so it's always best to hire a qualified electrician for any electrical work that you are not comfortable doing yourself.